This conversation is about something that might be quite confronting, but also incredibly freeing. If you're beginning to recognize that you sometimes use guilt to get your needs met, maybe without even realizing it, then this is an opportunity for real growth. You're not here to be blamed or judged. You're here to understand yourself more deeply and to learn how to express your needs in a way that builds connection, not conflict. Reframing your needs as someone who's used guilt tripping in the past is about shifting how you see yourself and how you communicate. It's about moving from trying to compel others into action to simply, and confidently, expressing what you really need. When you reframe your needs in this way, you take away the pressure and invite more genuine support. You start creating space in your relationships for honest, mutual care, rather than obligation or emotional tension. Let's look at why this matters. When you rely on guilt, even subtly, it's usually because there's a fear sitting underneath. A fear that if you don't highlight what you've done for someone or remind them how much you care, they won't prioritize you. It can come from a deep-seated worry that your needs won't matter unless you make the other person feel bad for not meeting them. And that fear is understandable. It might be something you learnt from past relationships, or from experiences where being direct didn't go well. Maybe it even worked at times, but probably at the cost of genuine closeness. So let's imagine a shift. Instead of saying something like, "If you really cared, you'd be helping me right now," you could say, "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed and your help would mean a lot to me." That tiny change in language makes a huge difference. The first statement puts pressure on the other person. It frames support as a test of their care. The second is open, honest, and invites the other person to help from a place of choice, not guilt. And this brings us to something really important: confidence in your own worth. At the core of guilt tripping, there's often a belief that you need to justify your requests. That you have to earn care and support by pointing to what you've done or how much you've given. But the truth is, your needs are valid simply because you have them. You don't have to prove your worth to ask for what you need. When you begin to believe that, it changes how you communicate. Instead of saying, "After everything I've done for you, the least you could do is this," you might say, "Would you be able to help me with this?" It would really make a difference. That kind of request still expresses your need, but it does so in a way that respects the other person's freedom to say yes or no without pressure. And that's what trust is built on. This reframing also changes the dynamic in your relationships. It shifts things from a power struggle into something far more collaborative. Relationships aren't about winning or keeping score. They are about mutual understanding. When you ask for what you need directly and calmly, you give the other person the chance to respond from a place of care, not compliance. They feel respected, not cornered. And over time, this builds deeper, more fulfilling connections. Let's say you're feeling a bit distant from someone and you'd really like to spend some time together. Instead of saying, "I guess you're too busy for me these days," which can easily trigger guilt or defensiveness, you could say, "I miss spending time with you," when might be a good time to catch up. You've expressed your need for connection without putting the other person in a position where they feel they've already let you down. You've left the door open for them to respond willingly and positively. The benefits of this kind of communication are massive. For one, you'll likely notice that people respond more positively and more consistently when they don't feel guilt into it. You also start to feel more secure in yourself. Because you're not relying on emotional pressure to feel supported, you're learning to trust that your needs can be met through clarity and confidence, not control. And something else happens too. Your relationships become more relaxed, more open. There's less walking on eggshells, less tension, and far more honesty. You feel better about how you show up. And the people around you feel more at ease, knowing they can trust you to speak openly rather than with loaded messages or emotional weight. Of course, this isn't always easy. Changing the way you communicate takes time. You might catch yourself slipping back into guilt tripping now and again, especially in moments of stress or vulnerability. That's normal. The key is to notice it when it happens and gently remind yourself, I don't need to use guilt to be heard. I can speak directly. I can ask for what I need without assuming the worst. And even if the answer is no, that doesn't mean I'm not cared for or worthy of support. So if you're hearing this and realizing you've been using guilt more often than you thought, that's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be curious about. Where did that habit come from? What's it been protecting you from? And how can you begin to shift it into something healthier? The fact that you're reflecting, that you're open to doing things differently, already shows you're ready to grow. And you don't have to do it all at once. Every time you choose to express a need clearly instead of guilting someone into meeting it, you're reinforcing your own self-worth and creating stronger, more authentic relationships. In the next and final module of this course, we are going to bring everything together and look at the path forward. What does life look like when you've broken free from the cycle of guilt tripping? How do you keep building on this growth? And how do you continue showing up in your relationships with clarity, honesty, and confidence? Today you are learning how to meet your emotional needs in a way that's more empowering, more respectful, and ultimately more loving, not just towards others, but towards yourself too. And that's what this journey is all about.